Let me ask you something. What if you, right now, just existing, are a priceless work of art? It's a pretty wild thought, but that's exactly what we're diving into today. So, for a long time now, the art world has been kind of obsessed with this German artist, Joseph Beuys. Back in '83, he came up with this really groundbreaking idea that through our actions, by shaping the world around us, we could literally turn ourselves into living social sculptures. That's a powerful idea for sure. This idea that we have the potential to become art. But what if Beuys didn't go far enough? What if you don't have to do anything to earn that title? What if you're already a masterpiece just by being alive? And this is where things get really interesting. There's this artist collective, the Joblin Factory, and they take Beuys' idea and just completely flip it on its head. See, Beuys said your actions create a social sculpture, but Joblin Factory, they say your very existence, your thoughts, your feelings, all of it, is what they call a private sculpture. You don't have to act, you just have to be. All right, let's really dig into this bold claim. I mean, if you accept that you're already a masterpiece, the whole game changes, right? The challenge isn't about creating something new anymore. It's about learning to see what's already there. Which, of course, brings up the big question. If you're a living masterpiece, how do you even begin to see it? How do you look past all the everyday stuff and recognize the art that is, well, you? Okay, so where do we even start with this? How do we begin to see ourselves in this new light? Well, the main tool for this is actually surprisingly simple. It's probably something you have on your wall right now, a mirror. Yeah, a mirror. It's something most of us use every single day, right? We barely even think about it. But according to the artist Jack Joblin, we need to start looking at the mirror in a totally new way. He actually suggests two different ways to do this. First, there's the clear mirror. That's for the advanced folks, people who are already getting comfortable with this idea of seeing themselves as art. But for beginners, he recommends something that sounds, well, a little weird, a cloudy or blurry mirror. And you might be asking, why? Well, because that blurry image, it forces you to see yourself differently. You're less focused on tiny little perceived flaws, and you start to see yourself more like an impressionistic painting by Gerhard Richter. It's a beautiful shift from focusing on what is to imagining what could be. And you can totally see where this is all going, right? I mean, imagine digital fake mirrors that don't just reflect you, but they reinterpret you in real time. You could see yourself as this moving, living portrait in the style of, say, Francis Bacon or Lucian Freud. A simple glance in the mirror becomes this deep, interactive art experience. Pretty cool. Okay, but the mirror, that's just the start. It's a tool to kind of crack open our perception. From here, the whole concept gets way more visceral, which brings us to our next section, art of flesh and blood. Right, so the mirror is the bridge. It helps you start seeing yourself as art. But the next step in this philosophy, it gets much more intense. And honestly, a little unsettling. At the heart of this next step is a concept they call Fleisch ist Kunst. It translates to flesh is art. And the idea is this. Seeing dead flesh, so any non-living matter, it makes us hyper-aware of our own living flesh. The dead stuff isn't the art. No. It's just a signpost, pointing to the real masterpiece in the room, the living, breathing human being. To make this a little less abstract, the artist Jack Joblin actually creates something he calls salmon art. Yep, artworks made from salmon. But the fish itself isn't the point. Its whole purpose is to decay, to be this piece of dead matter that stands in stark contrast to the living, vital artwork that is you, the person looking at it. It's a really profound idea when you think about it. It puts the ultimate value on life itself. But, in a world that runs on money, this beautiful idea crashes right into a cold, hard question. If every single person is a priceless work of art, just walking around for free on every street corner, how on earth could the art market make a profit from that? And that question, it leads us straight into the dark, kind of dystopian side of this whole idea. Which brings us to section 4, for sale, one human being. The artist actually imagines this really disturbing business model that could pop up. A world where the art isn't something you hang on a wall. The art is the person you pass on the street. So let's just walk through how this chilling scenario might actually work. Step 1 is acquisition. A super wealthy patron buys another person as a living piece of art. Then comes maintenance. The owner pays for the artwork's food, housing, all the upkeep. Third, profit.
The art market, of course, takes a nice commission on all these sales. And finally, the most disturbing part, influence. The owner contractually gets a say in the living artwork's life choices. They're literally shaping that person's biography as if they were a sculpture made of clay.
So, wow. We've seen the beautiful, empowering side of this and the absolutely horrifying, risky side. So where does that leave us? Well, that brings us to our final thought, the unavoidable artwork. We've really looked at the two extremes here. On one hand, you've got this utopia where every single person has this deep, inherent artistic value. And on the other, a terrifying dystopia where humans are just another commodity. But whether it goes one way or the other, the core idea, the central point, remains. And that core idea is all wrapped up in this one powerful statement. Der Mensch kann nicht Kunst sein. It translates to the human cannot not be art. Think about that. It suggests that this isn't a choice. It's not something you achieve. It's just a fundamental part of what we are. So I want to leave you with this question. If this is true, if every person you meet, every person you see is a unique, irreplaceable work of art, how does that change the way you see the world? And maybe more importantly, how does it change the way you see yourself when you look in the mirror?